If you've enjoyed the past 3.5 years of Path of Exile, I have incredible news for you. Once the now independent Path of Exile 2 releases, more resources should return to Path of Exile 1, and both games will be developed strongly concurrently. However, every little bit of this hinges on one simple question. Do you trust grinding your games to deliver? They promised plenty during ExileCon 2023, stating their goal is to maintain and grow both of their PC titles, while also planning to release a mobile version too after PoE 2's launch. This breaks down 3 ways. What will this look like? Why will GGG deliver? And, as iterated before, can we trust GGG to accomplish this Herculean task? Let's take these questions on one at a time. But first, no, this is not an ad. I'd like to make it clear. I'm excited to play both Path of Exile 1 and 2. If this pans out, it's going to be amazing. However, I am disappointed that PoE 1 will not be getting the updates it was promised all the way up until ExileCon 2023, namely the graphical, animation, and skill gem improvements that were supposed to iron out a few of its issues, melee gameplay among them. I know good updates from PoE 2 may trickle in, but it was still disheartening to see much of the modernization as a game in PoE 2 will not be hitting PoE 1. Okay, for real now, let's take a look at this titanic task ahead for Chris, Jonathan, Mark, and the rest of grinding your games. Number 1. What will the development of PoE 1, PoE 2, and PoE Mobile look like to us players? GGG's goal is to continue to push expansions to Path of Exile 1 leading up to the release of PoE 2. Then, once PoE 2 releases, they plan on releasing ladder resets in the form of leagues and brand new content updates to both PoE 1 and PoE 2. These cycles will be staggered, ensuring if you enjoy both games, you can participate in both of them after the initial hype starting period. We all know the first month of a league is the most exciting, then it trickles off until the new league begins. During this new cycle, say we get a new PoE 1 expansion 7 weeks into a Path of Exile 2 league. Then, 6 weeks into the new PoE 1 league, a brand new PoE 2 expansion will launch. Obviously, this is a dream for people who love Path of Exile and would like PoE 1 and PoE 2 to be the only games that they play. However, it does leave little room for other gaming and could lead to a bit of burnout on the player side, especially since if you're a super invested player who might want to play the PoE Mobile leagues too, which were confirmed to happen once PoE Mobile launches sometime after the official release of PoE 2. Essentially, if GGG does stick the landing, there's a lot of PoE in our future. What I'm curious about are the leagues and challenges themselves. There are a bunch of questions unanswered. Will each game have its own distinct expansion and league mechanic? GGG did mention if one league works really well in PoE 2 or PoE 1, they might change it a tad and put it in the other game. Will each game have its own set of challenges to complete? I really hope these stay, as these are among my favorite tidbits of PoE. I love hitting 40 out of 40 challenges and earning the unique Super FOMO cosmetic rewards. It's a real sense of accomplishment. I still feel shame not getting my heist portal because I was moving into my house a few years back. True, terrible shame. Will PoE 1 ever get drastic endgame expansions again? I really hope it does. But if it does, I'd reckon they'll be quite rare. Nowhere near the beautiful cadence we had from Conquerors of the Atlas to Siege of the Atlas. I suppose PoE 1's endgame is in a great spot, and they're just trickling in extra cool pieces, like the new Atlas passive keystones in 3.22, but I'm itching for more awesome pinnacle bosses hitting PoE 1 in the future. Once PoE 2 hits, I really wonder if PoE 1 will get a bigger development team and allow for larger expansions. They do seem keen on 4 expansions per game per year. If Path of Exile 1 still makes money, it definitely should, right? Which brings us to the next question. Number 2. Why will GGG deliver on their promise of 2 fully fledged non-mobile ARPGs? During ExileCon, there was quite a bit of talk from the developers about how they'd be keeping up with developing PoE 1 alongside the release of PoE 2. When questioned further on why they'd be doing this, there was one prominent answer repeated a few times over by Jonathan, one of the 2 game directors for Path of Exile 2. Succinctly, they'll be incentivized to keep making updates for PoE 1 because they'll still make microtransactions for it, and all microtransactions feasible in either PoE 1 or PoE 2 will work in the other. While of course this answer makes sense, GGG is a company and they are out to earn profit after all, hearing this as the answer was just disappointing. I get that PoE 2 is supposed to be the new, shiny, better game, and Jonathan is its lead designer. He's no longer attached to PoE 1. Regardless, if the goal is to run both of them at the same time as one company, I'd think one part of the leadership would hold more pride in PoE 1 than just seeing it as a vessel to make more money. The passion may be gone from one part of GGG, which sucks. It's something I've always seen as a major positive about them as a company. It's nitpicky, I know, but it just churns around in my gut. It's not something Chris Wilson was saying despite not being a leader on PoE 2 anymore. He was PoE 2's biggest fan. I just wish the same could be true for PoE 2 developers and their thoughts on PoE 1. I hope a rift doesn't form between the two sides. They should realize they're on the same team, and despite PoE 2 being the next big thing, everyone should understand that if they plan on delivering outstanding PoE 1 content, the company should still stand behind PoE 1 as a great game. It is now, and it will be in the future. Number 3. Can we trust GGG to overcome this immense challenge? Say they continue to develop PoE 1 expansions until PoE 2 releases sometime in late 2024 or early 2025. Will they be able to keep both games alive and well? That's the largest slice of the Discord today, Exiles. PoE 1 has already been expanded by a skeleton crew at GGG, ranging anywhere from 8 to 50 developers the past few years, while everyone else is hard at work on PoE 2. Have you been pleased with the past few years of content? Besides Lake of Calandra, I have. Some of the leagues may have been tiny, but they've usually been accompanied by other big additions. Crucible is a big exception. If you're like me and you have been satisfied, good news. That's at least the quality and quantity we'll get until PoE 2 releases. After PoE 2 releases though, what happens? Well, that's where it gets a little tricky. As long as PoE 1 continues to make money, I can see them putting more developers on it. It's going to be a distinct game from PoE 2 with all its fascinations. I'm sure an audience will remain, especially if they deliver on the ping-ponging of PoE 2 League, PoE 1 League, PoE 2 League, and so on. Both PoEs, that's funny, will continue to grow, change, and become better games. This is the best scenario. What if PoE 1 proves unprofitable, though? What if people greatly prefer PoE 2? This, in my eyes, is quite the possibility. Imagine you finally play PoE 2, the finished product, not what we saw at ExileCon. I'm of the mindset it'll be quite similar to PoE 1, albeit with a few fundamental changes to the gameplay loops like flask management, crafting, and starting character progression. All the things we know and love about PoE are still likely to be there. The gem system, updated and expanded, the dark world, the massive passive skill tree, tons of new ascendancies, massively improved graphics, titanic boss fights, over 700 unique items and 700 base types to experiment with, overhauled and beautified versions of the best leagues of PoE 1, and much more. You play that first league at launch, and then 8 weeks or so in, there's a new PoE 1 league. You're excited, ready for a dose of nostalgia. League start happens and you enjoy it. Oh, but then you begin to miss the new gem system. You realize the animations are super janky, and your favorite PoE 2 playstyle, melee, doesn't feel good in PoE 1. Item bases aren't as interesting, and you actually like the dodge roll of PoE 2. It's not in PoE 1. So you grow tired quickly and decide, hey, I don't think PoE 1 is for me anymore. Time to play some more PoE 2. Well, of course, to each their own, you should do what you find fun. This, though, is where it begins. The cannibalization of PoE 1's player base. Over time, less people might play and more will be drawn to PoE 2, leaving PoE 1 a wasteland and, unfortunately, unprofitable. What happens then? Well, it could turn into something like Diablo 2 Resurrected, a game with minimal updates and ladder resets. Plenty of people would still play, but the game would go on life support. That'd be a shame given GGG's current outlook. I wouldn't want to see this happen. I don't think many people would. I want both games to succeed. Really. There's of course another outcome, which is far more unlikely in my eyes. PoE 2 is the less played game and PoE 1 stands high above it, unique among everything out there. I don't think this will happen. I really do think PoE 2 is going to be a lot closer to the PoE we know and love than many people realize. I do believe if everyone at GGG unites and understands they're out to achieve the impossible, they can build, run, and expand 2 ARPGs at the same time. If they can pull this off, they're geniuses, far more capable than the likes of other titans of industry out there. If they cannot, they'll be lauded as developers who killed one of the most addicting ARPGs out there in favor of something new. This is their trial, Exiles. I think they can succeed, but we're such a far ways out from Path of Exile 2 and the long future ahead for PoE. Still, I thought this deserved a look and a bit of discussion given the heated debates all around our community. Remember, all of us totally unhinged exiles are just looking for a great game or duo of games to cherish and have fun in. Let's hope Grinding Gear Games can pull this off for all of our sakes. Shout out to everyone directly supporting the channel via Patreon or a YouTube membership. You are all the absolute best exiles among us. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you would appreciate seeing more content like it, subscribe now. Additionally, check out these juicy videos on your screen. Every minute you watch helps the channel grow. Plus, we have a Discord server now, link is below. I'm also streaming on Twitch occasionally, usually just to talk about PoE in the videos. I'd love to chat with you when I'm live. To everyone who watched until this ultimate moment, Hala Moana.